What's up, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of the Powerlifting for the People podcast. I'm your host, Coach Gaglione, and I've been involved with powerlifting and strength coaching for over 15 years. Very exciting. Today, I want to kind of recap the pinnacle of finishing one of my ultimate goals, one of my bucket list goals, something I've aspired to do since I started powerlifting back in 2006. It's been a long journey, but just to kind of give a little context, I did my first meet in the 198 class, 2006. I believe I had my first meet. I did a 1065 total, and back in the early 2000s, I always had aspirations of becoming an equipped lifter. That was kind of when Westside Barbell was in its heyday, and equipped lifting was the primary, basically the only form of powerlifting that you could do. And, basically, that's what powerlifting was, and that's kind of like the era that I grew up in, and it's one of the reasons why I still enjoy lifting equipped, and it's just something that's always interested me. And one of the things that I always had aspirations to do was achieve a 2,000 total, and I always had kind of dreams and kind of looked up to a lot of the athletes that competed in the WPO, which was at the Arnold at the time, and that was kind of like the biggest stage in powerlifting. And so over the past 6 to 7 years, we've had athletes from Gaglione Strength, from our gym, compete at the Arnold and do really well. Most notably in 2020, we had Larry Williams break the all-time world record in the 308 class for his third and final world record performance. And we've had many athletes. We've had many athletes medal and do really well and win over the years. Just hits lots of PRs and just have some great performances at the Arnold. And for those that are not aware, but essentially you need to have an elite classification to compete at the Arnold, the XPC finals, and it's a very good national level meet for someone that's like kind of just getting to a more competitive stage in powerlifting, especially for someone that is like a raw with wraps lifter or an equipped lifter. So we did have a bunch of athletes qualify this year, but we had some people who kind of dropped out due to just unforeseen circumstances, financial reasons, and things like that. So I decided, since I have recently totaled elite in the 198s, the 242s, and the 220s, I decided to throw my hat in. I wasn't sure if I would ever get an opportunity to compete at the Arnold again. I had finally achieved elite status, and kind of everything kind of lined up in this. So I decided it was kind of, again, a quick prep, basically just 5 to 6 weeks of training. So I had to kind of jump into it, make sure my form was good, and it was a very quick process, but kind of just did our peaking. I peaked how I normally do, but the main difference was, and if you want to listen to some of the older episodes, I kind of just included some cardio and kind of kept my bodybuilding and my isolation accessories in a little bit later. And I believe that really helped keep my conditioning and my health in check while doing this peaking cycle. So I just want to kind of recap today. And again, this was the meet of my life. It was my best performance ever. I believe that I was first capable of hitting a 2,000 total back in 2014, but just due to just not putting all my lifts together due to health reasons, it just never happened. My best lifts in competition or a 900-pound squat, a 575 bench, and now actually I hit an all-time record deadlift. But before this weekend, my best deadlift in a meet was 660. I did also do a deadlift, 700-pound deadlift in a contest, but I only got one white light, so not an official lift in the book. So as you can see, if you kind of add up those numbers, they total well over 2,000, but I just never was able to kind of put all my lifts together because I was unhealthy, because I just wasn't as skilled of a lifter. So even though I'm not absolutely as strong as I was when I was super heavyweight, being as heavy as 340 pounds, I'm a much more healthy, well-rounded, and skilled lifter. And now I ended up hitting a 75-pound total PR, which I'll kind of get into in a second. I'm going to recap the day. So kind of starting with squats, again, everything kind of felt pretty good. There was a little bit, I tried to really make sure throughout the whole meet that I was very calm because this was the biggest meet I've ever done. It's the highest level of standard of judging and all that. We had to squat extremely deep. So I knew that the squats were going to be even though squat is my best lift, it was going to be a wild card because I knew the judging was going to be tight. They always make the lifters squat to a good standard. And this year was no different, and I would say they even maybe held us to a higher standard because I don't think I've ever squatted so deep in multiply before. But I was able to acclimate to the conditions. I warmed up to about 695, and my warm-ups felt good. Then once I got to the platform, I had a really smooth opener of 765, and everything went according to plan. So we ended up making a kind of a bigger jump just to kind of make sure that our second attempt was, even if we didn't get our third, the second attempt was going to put us in position for my goal. So on my second attempt, I had a little bit of a shaky pick, but I was able to muster up an 810 squat, which was 5 pounds more than I did the meet prior, which was good. It's a little bit under my PR at 240. It was a little bit under my PR. My PR squat at 220 is 820, but this was a much smoother lift. It was way deeper. It's probably the deepest 800-pound squat plus 800-plus pound squat I've ever done. So I'm super proud of this lift, and even though it was not my best squat ever, in terms of a standard it was, and I know that in time, I actually wore a looser suit. I only wore a training brief underneath, so I know that potentially with a meet with slightly looser standards, or a little bit, if I don't have to squat quite as deep in another meet, I know that there's a lot more on the table. But 810 was a great lift for again, you have to when it comes to squat depth. I always like to use the analogy of an umpire in baseball, and everyone's strike zone is a little bit different. So even though if you've done a certain squat in training or at another meet, you always have to kind of just lift to the standard that you're given on that particular day. And I believe 810 was a great lift. I ended up cutting 830 a little bit high, and I think in most federations that lift would have passed. It wasn't like terribly high. I would say it was probably about parallel or maybe just slightly above. And it was still a good effort, but I wanted to make sure I didn't hurt my back and I didn't screw up my back for the rest of the meet. So I stood up with 830, but that was turned down due to depth. But I was able to hit all my squats. I had no actual misses, so just one technical miss due to depth. I got one white light, 2 reds, close miss, and moved on to bench. So bench warm-ups felt really good. Warmed up to about 455 in the back. Hit a pretty strong opener of 495, and then I ended up hitting 5 pounds more. And my opener was actually a 15-pound PR at 220, so that was already a great start. And I ended up hitting 530 on my second, and then that flew. And I wanted to do a little bit more, but luckily, Nick, my handler, and my training partner, kind of talked me down, and we ended up with 550, and I think that was the right call because I don't think I had any more on that particular day. But 550 was a 70-pound PR, I believe, at 220 class, and it's actually my second best all-time in a meet. My best bench ever is 575, so I'm getting close to my super heavyweight bench press, which is really impressive, so I'm very happy, and I attribute a lot of my bench press success to a lot of the bodybuilding training, a lot of the Brig 20 movements and isolation movements I've been doing. Just been keeping my shoulders healthier, putting a little bit more muscle mass up top, and I believe if I want to get to the 600-pound range on the bench, a lot of these bodybuilding accessories are going to be key, because that's probably one thing that I'm lacking in terms of, especially in the delts and the shoulders and my arms. Those are all weak points in bodybuilding, and they also happen to be contribute to the bench press. So I believe that if I can kind of bring up those body parts in the off season, I can get back. I can get to a 600-pound bench range. I've handled 600 before in training, but never in a meet, and I believe that'd be also a nice milestone to get back to, and definitely kind of a bucket list kind of goal in terms of a single lift. So if I can get back up to a 900-pound squat in a lighter weight class, and if I can get to a 600-pound bench press, that would put me in a very, very good territory for being more competitive as an equipped lifter. So bench press went fantastic. That was kind of the key to the meet here, because obviously, like I said, that really kind of put me ahead on my subtotal. And I actually, on my opener, which was crazy, I didn't really, I had an all-time PR on just my opener. So anyways, deadlifts felt really good. My hips felt good, so I knew that I was going to be in good position to hit my goal. But I still had to make it happen. But so we kind of did the math. We ended up bumping my opener up to 600. I warmed up to 555 in the back. Everything felt very smooth. Positions felt really good in the warm-up room. Hips felt really strong. Hips felt good. I was getting good positions in the back. Still kind of work. So there was a little bit of a question mark because I had done a lot of my off-season training in straps, and I only had a couple of weeks to prepare for the deadlift. So my grip was a little bit of a question mark because, again, I did so much training in straps leading up to my peaking phase, and I did tear up my hand. So I had to slow down my setup a little bit. I wanted to make sure. So that kind of caused me to be less explosive in my start. But I knew that was the right call. So anyways, 600 on my opener felt really good. It ended up hitting an all-time total PR on my opener, which is amazing. But I came here for one reason and one reason only, and that was a total of 2,000. So 2,000 total. We loaded 640 on the bar, and that would give me 2,000 total even. And this was the lift that really mattered. So I had to really zone in, visualize, and calm down and make sure that everything was perfect for that attempt. And I was able to. It wasn't a super easy lift, but I just really made sure that I actually wasn't quite as explosive because I wanted to really, again, make sure I held on to it. But hit a 640 lift, and then from there was kind of a big, emotional toll when you kind of achieve that goal, and it was kind of already done on my second attempt. I didn't even need to take my third deadlift to achieve that. But I did need to regroup because I did have one lift left, and I wanted to end the day on a good note. So I elected to hit an all-time meet PR deadlift. My meet PR prior was 660 in the 275 class. So I elected to go 665, and 670 was the number that tore my hand open the last meet. So, 6665, I knew it was going to be challenging. But I knew that was a number that was going to put me in good position to win the meet, put me in good position to just kind of finish the day and on a high note of hitting an all-time PR deadlift, and also to it would be my second triple bodyweight deadlift in competition. I've done a triple bodyweight deadlift in the 198 class before, but never in the 220 class. So it was a tough lift, and actually what was really interesting was I started to actually lose kind of grip on my left hand, which has never happened before. I was so fixated on my right hand getting set, and I probably was a little bit lazy on my left hand. So that side started to dip down a little bit, and I kind of locked out a little crooked. But I ended up kind of, sticking with it enough. I kind of threw my chin, threw my hips in. Admittedly, I think my knees could have been a little bit straighter. I think I probably would have red lighted myself, at least on the left side, but it was enough to satisfy the judges and get a good lift. So I ended up with a 2025 total, so I was 25 pounds above my goal. It was a 75-pound all-time PR total. My best total before was 1950 in the 275 class, also 1950 in the 242 class, but I've never done more than 1950. I've had, again, individual lifts that were better, but today was I hit all my lifts. I only had one missed lift due to technicality, due to depth. So I went 8 for 9, the performance of my life. On the biggest stage of my life. So still kind of soaking it in, still kind of surreal. I thought that I would feel a little bit differently because this was kind of like something I've been chasing for so long. And I thought I might not even really want to compete again in powerlifting for a while, but I feel like a fire, and I feel like now I can, really go to a next level, and I feel like I'm in a completely different kind of frame of mind. But that being said, I do want to take some time to focus on my health, get some fat off. So I'm going to enter a bodybuilding cycle, a preparation phase for a contest potentially August 20th for New Jersey State. But in any case, I want to drop down. And what I'm thinking for now is that I think what's next for me in terms of powerlifting will be probably a meet in the 198, because I believe that even though I hit an elite total in the 198s, I believe that I had a very poor performance. I only went 4 for 9 that meet when I totaled elite. So there's a lot more room on the table. So I'd like to hit a pro total in the 198 class as my next goal, and just kind of go over 1,900 pounds. So that'll be kind of the next thing. I'll kind of go do to meet at 198, and maybe go back to 220s after that. But again, it's just 2014 I believe was the first year I was kind of capable of it. I had a 1925. We could check open powerlifting. I had a 19, so we could do the math. But 2013 was my first 1900 total. So, I mean, it's a long time, almost 10 years later. So in 2013, like, I feel like, like this has been a tremendous goal. And I had my sights on it, back in 2006. So it's over 15. I would consider this goal over 15 years in the making. So one thing I also want to highlight is that, sometimes, yes, getting stronger is a factor, but also just kind of putting your lifts together and just having a better performance, peaking right. And you can make progress just with that. So there's a skill component to powerlifting. There's a peaking component to powerlifting. And, you have to get your nutrition dialed in, which I've been learning a lot with. Your sleep, there's so many factors to get better. And I think that people kind of quit when it gets too hard. A lot of times lifters will stop when they're 6 months in, 18 months in, and they start to kind of lose those newbie gains. But there's really so much you could do to improve. So if you can learn to love the process, I think a lot of people in my situation would have quit on this goal a long time ago because, like I said, in 2014, I believe I know I was capable of this if you look at my individual lifts. And it took me that long to put it together, but I'm happy I stuck with it and to do this on a big stage. Maybe that's what it was meant to be, maybe I was supposed to do it at this meet. But I feel really good about it. I wouldn't have been able to do it without my team. Behind me, I have a lot of support. We have a great crew at Gaglione Strength. We run meets. We have it's a team environment, and it just makes things a lot better than having my team here to support me through the process. And I didn't have to do it alone was tremendous, and I know I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So I'll leave it at that. Let the dust settle a little bit. I'm still letting this sink in. I'm going to celebrate a little bit, regroup this week, and then kind of again enter a bodybuilding phase. So I hope this inspires you, and I hope you guys kind of learned some things that you can apply to your own training or your own competition experience. And again, if you guys want to support this podcast, support this program, please give it a 5-star review. Check out the links in the description. And one thing, again, I will leave you with is just realize that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. As I record this is a day later or whatever, or 2 days later. My body feels really good. I'm healthy. I did a workout the next day. I'm not doing any barbell training this week, but this is something that's a fun thing. 99% of us are not getting paid to do this. Have your health in mind. Take your time. Enjoy it. You shouldn't be blowing biceps and hamstrings, and you should be able to tie your shoes and all this stuff. So I'm really proud of myself for doing this in a healthy way. I've lost over 100 pounds and kept it off. I'm able to enjoy lifting heavy and be competitive and kind of scratch that itch. And, I'm doing this for myself at this point. And I think that whatever you do, again, I'm not saying it's wrong or whatever, but I'm not doing this for followers. I'm not doing this for likes. This is something that means a lot to me. I want to set an example for my team. I want to learn about strength training methods and kind of apply them and be my own guinea pig so I can help other people get strong, other people with their own training. I do this for me. I don't do this for anyone else. I don't do this for any reason, but for my own fulfillment and also, again, to set an example and learn so I can just help others. So when you have a really strong why, you'll figure out the how. I think it's really important. And if you have a really strong why, you'll stick with it longer. If you're doing things for superficial reasons, if you're doing things for the wrong reasons, or if you don't have a strong reason to begin with, you're going to quit and you're going to fail. So whatever you do in life, really make sure you understand why you're doing it. And if you have a strong reason, you'll figure out a way to make it happen. And if you need help, we do offer coaching and things like that. So you can, again, check out the links for a consult. But I really appreciate, again, you guys following along this journey. It's been a long time coming. It's been very a sweet victory for me. And I'm excited for what's to come. I feel like it's a whole new chapter for me, and I'm just getting started. So thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.